Someone zipped a German Shepherd puppy inside a backpack and left him under the Arizona sun to die. I saw the bag just before noon, slumped at the base of the metal gate outside our rescue center in Tucson. It was an old military-style backpack, dusty green, the kind you'd expect to find on a hiking trail. Not here, baking in 105 Dufour heat. The zipper was halfway closed. One of the straps was chewed through, and from inside came the faintest sound, like breathing, but broken. At first, I thought I imagined it. The highway was loud behind me. Cica's screamed from every tree. But then the backpack moved. Just a twitch. Just enough. I dropped my coffee and ran. My name is Mark, and I've been volunteering at this rescue for almost 6 years. I've seen cruelty. I've seen neglect, but I wasn't ready for what I'd find when I unzipped that bag. Inside, wrapped in a filthy towel that smelled like gasoline and mold, was a tiny German Shepherd puppy, no more than 4 months old. He didn't lift his head. He didn't whimper. He just blinked once. His eyes were sunken. His tongue was cracked and dry. His fur was matted, sticking to the fabric like glue. But what broke me wasn't the state he was in. It was what was tied to the zipper. A baby blue pacifier, melted slightly from the heat, strung onto a leather shoelace, hanging there like some kind of sick afterthought. I scooped him up, backpack and all, and yelled for help. The team rushed outside with water, towels, and a stretcher. Someone called Dr. Hughes from the clinic next door. I cradled the puppy in my arms, feeling his heartbeat like a whisper against my chest. "Is he breathing?" someone asked. "Barely," I managed. They placed him on a cooling mat inside. His body was so hot it fogged the stainless steel. He hadn't been left there an hour ago. This backpack had been in the sun for hours. Who did this? Who zips up a German Shepherd puppy like trash, leaves a pacifier as a twisted joke, and walks away? And most of all, did we find him in time? He didn't move for the first 10 minutes. We hovered silent as Dr. Hughes ran a line into his tiny forehead fluids. A cold compress was pressed to his belly. His paws twitched once, just once, and I held my breath like that meant something. The vet murmured vitals under her breath, shaking her head at the numbers. His temperature was off the charts, his breathing shallow, heart faint. The word she whispered under her breath, "Shut down," sent a chill through all of us. I watched as she checked his gums, pale, almost white. She clicked her pen, scribbled something on her chart, then looked me dead in the eye. "We might be too late." I didn't answer. I couldn't. He was so small. German Shepherd puppies aren't supposed to look like this. They're supposed to be bounding, barking, playful little warriors, not folded it up like a used towel and left to roast alive in a backpack. I stared at that blue pacifier again. We'd set the bag aside on the floor near the intake table. The pacifier dangled from the zipper like it still meant something. I couldn't stop looking at it. It was a message. I realized someone wanted us to feel something. But what? Regret? Mockery? Guilt? I didn't know why, but it made me furious. "Hey," someone whispered. I turned. The puppy moved. His head didn't lift, but his paw shifted just slightly across the towel. "He's fighting," I said aloud. It came out like a vow. Dr. Hughes leaned in again. A syringe. Another bag. Another whisper to her tech. I didn't leave his side. Not when the room got crowded. Not when it cleared. Not even when my lunch break came and went. I sat on the floor next to the table, hand resting near his paw. Then, just before 3 p.m., his tongue moved barely, but it moved. "He needs a name," I said softly. Someone behind me murmured, "You think he's going to make it?" I didn't answer that either. But I looked down at that tiny half-melted pacifier, and I knew. Let's call him Levi, because if he made it through this, he deserved a name that meant something. Levi flinched when I touched his paw. It was the smallest thing, just a twitch, like a reflex. But it hit me like a bolt of lightning. For the first time, he wasn't completely still. For the first time, there was something, a flicker of life inside that broken little body. Dr. Hughes leaned over him again, adjusting the oxygen line, murmuring words only her tech could understand. I stayed close, watching his chest rise and fall like the tide. Uneven, too slow, but steady enough to count. He was still fighting. We wrapped him in a clean towel, soft and warm from the dryer, and moved him into the isolation room where the lights were dimmer and the noise was softer. I carried him myself, pressed against my chest. He didn't resist. He didn't shiver. He just melted into me like I was the first safe thing he'd ever known. Once he was settled, I sat on the floor again. I couldn't stop thinking about the heat, the weight of that backpack, the way the zipper had sealed him in. How long had he been in there? 3 hours? 5? A full day? How many cars had driven by before someone saw the bag and did nothing? How many people heard him cry and walked away? "I'm sorry," I whispered, brushing a piece of dirt from his ear. "You didn't deserve that." He didn't open his eyes, but his ear moved toward my voice. My throat tightened. When I was a kid, we had a German shepherd named Ranger. He used to sleep at the foot of my bed every night. He was my best friend, my shadow, my safety net. Losing him broke something in me I didn't know how to fix. I hadn't let another shepherd close since, until now. Levi was still warm against my chest. His breathing had changed, deeper now, slower, almost rhythmic. Dr. Hughes came in with a thermometer and smiled slightly. "He's stabilizing." Those 2 words made my chest cave in. For a moment, nobody said anything. And then someone knocked at the back door of the clinic. A woman stood outside, nervous, fidgeting, eyes darting around. In her hand, the same type of backpack, identical, and my blood ran cold. She clutched the backpack like it was made of glass. Her knuckles were white. Her eyes scanned the parking lot, then locked on the intake door. She didn't see me at first. I was standing off to the side inside, still holding Levi. But when our eyes met through the window, she froze. I stepped toward the door. My heart was pounding for reasons I couldn't name yet. I wasn't scared. I was bracing. Something about the way she held that bag, the tension in her shoulders, the way she hugged it close, sent up every alarm I had. I opened the door, slowly. "You here for the clinic?" I asked. She blinked fast. Her voice was dry. I didn't know where else to go." The bag shifted in her hands. It made a noise, a sound. Not a zipper or a clink, a whimper. My body moved before my brain could catch up. "Is there a puppy in there?" I said, already reaching. She flinched, but didn't stop me. I unzipped the top halfway and peered inside. Another German Shepherd puppy, smaller than Levi, maybe 3 months old, eyes barely open, ribs showing, drool on its chin. It let out a muffled cry that punched straight through my spine. Dr. Hughes was at my side in seconds. "We need to get it inside." I held the door open while she swept the second puppy out of the backpack and into her arms. The girl stepped back, breathing fast, arms limp now, like she'd let go of a secret she couldn't carry anymore. "I didn't know they were real," she said suddenly. "The stories online, I thought people made them up." "What stories about your shelter?" She said that you don't ask questions, that you just help. I stared at her, stunned. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I didn't hurt them," she whispered. "I found them." "Where?" She looked away. "An alley near the strip mall," she said. "Behind the dumpsters, there were 3 bags. 3, but only 2 puppies." Dr. Cuss Hughes was already inside with a second pup barking orders. I turned back to the girl. "Do you remember exactly where?" She nodded barely. And I was already moving, already grabbing my keys, already running. Because if there was another German Shepherd puppy still out there, I wasn't going to let it die. Zipped up and forgotten in the heat. The alley smelled like rot and sunburned plastic. I parked behind the strip mall and stepped out into a wave of stifling heat. The asphalt shimmered. The dumpsters groaned under the weight of their own stench. I scanned the narrow passageway between the buildings, my heart in my throat. 3 bags, she'd said. We'd found 2. I didn't call anyone. There was no time. I moved fast, pushing aside broken pallets and old cardboard. My boots crunched over shattered glass. Flies buzzed thick in the air. My shirt clung to my back, soaked with sweat. And then I saw it, half hidden behind a broken chair and a collapsed laundry basket, slumped against the wall like it had been thrown there. A third backpack, the same model, same color, same chewed strap. My throat went dry. I dropped to my knees and yanked the zipper. Empty. Just a stained towel wet with something I didn't want to name and a torn piece of newspaper lining the bottom. No puppy. I stared for a long second, then looked around. Nothing. No sound. No motion. just the crackle of a plastic bag tumbling across the lot. Then I heard it, a bark, muffled, weak, barely there, but real. I spun around. Nothing. Again, a whimper. Close. Panicked. And then I saw it. Behind the row of dumpsters, wedged between two discarded mattresses, was a storm drain. One of the metal grates had been nudged loose. I dropped flat and peered into the shadow. Eyes. Tiny, glowing, terrified eyes. The third German Shepherd puppy was trapped underground. His paws scraped at the slick concrete as he tried to climb the slope toward the light. His head was just barely visible through the gap in the grate. He was crying now, soft, desperate sobs that didn't sound like barking at all. Said she'd driven nearly 2 hours after reading our shelter's post about 3 rescued German Shepherd puppies. Said something about fate and the right time. I led her to the yard where the trio was playing. Levi was sprawled in the sun like he owned it. Minnie was chewing on a pine cone she'd adopted as treasure. Theo, always cautious, stood back, watching Claire with those wide, thoughtful eyes. And then he did something none of us expected. He walked right up to her. No hesitation, no fear, just quiet, deliberate steps across the grass until he was sitting at her feet, tail barely wagging. Claire knelt slowly, as if afraid to break whatever spell had brought him close. She extended her hand, palm up. Theo sniffed it, then pressed his forehead gently into her fingers. I couldn't breathe. Not because it was shocking, because it wasn't. It was right. She looked up at me, eyes misted. I lost my husband last year. He was quiet, too. Thoughtful. Always waited and watched before speaking. She looked back down at Theo. He would have loved this little guy. Theo stayed beside her the rest of the visit. Minnie bounced around trying to nibble her sandals. Levi brought her a torn rope like a peace offering. She laughed, petted them all, but kept one hand on Theo's back the entire time. When she stood to leave, she turned to me. I'd like to apply to adopt him, she said. If he chooses me back. I looked down. Theo had followed her to the gate. The look in his eyes said everything. But it wasn't over because that night after we tucked them in, I found Levi sitting alone staring at the empty crate next to his. Theo's crate. He whimpered once, then curled in the corner with his nose tucked into his chest. And I knew saying goodbye was going to break someone's heart. The next morning, Levi didn't eat. He sniffed the bowl, pushed it with his nose, then walked away and curled into a tight ball near the back of his crate. His tail didn't wag when I came in. His ears didn't perk when I said his name. He just waited. Waited for the sound of Theo's crate door opening. Waited for the little shuffle of paws he'd grown used to sleeping beside. But Theo wasn't here. He'd left with Claire late last night, cradled in a blanket like a newborn, his head resting against her shoulder. He hadn't made a sound as they walked out, but his eyes had locked with Levis's one last time through the bars. I remembered how Levi had leaned forward, whining, pressing his nose through the crate like he wanted to follow, like he was supposed to. And now he was just still. I knelt beside him and opened the crate door. He didn't move. You miss him, huh? I whispered, no response. Minnie, bless her, tried everything. She pounced on him, licked his ear, dragged every toy in the yard to his paws. But Levi just lay there, eyes half-lidded, barely watching her. That afternoon, I took him out alone. No Minnie, no distractions, just the two of us in the recovery yard, sun painting gold across his fur. I sat in the grass and waited. Didn't speak, didn't coax, just waited. After a while, he came over, laid his head in my lap, and let out the deepest sigh I'd ever heard from something so young. I know, I said. It hurts because I did know. Losing someone, watching them walk away while you stay behind, it does something to you. Makes the air feel heavier. Makes the silence louder. But as I sat there with Levi in my lap, I also knew this. He wasn't alone, and he wouldn't be. That night, I posted a new photo. Levi curled up with Minnie, the two of them nestled in one crate, their noses touching. The caption was simple. 2 brave hearts waiting for their forever. And the next morning, the shelter phone rang. The call came from a young couple, Sarah and Evan, who'd seen the photo less than 10 minutes after we posted it. They didn't hesitate. We want both, Sarah said, her voice trembling with something between urgency and hope. We don't want to separate them. They've already lost too much. I didn't cry. Not until I hung up. That afternoon they drove down from Flagstaff, a soft crate in the back seat, and a blanket that smelled like home. Sarah knelt the second she saw Levi and Minnie, tears spilling down her cheeks before she even spoke. Evan waited, gentle, patient, his hand resting on her shoulder as the puppies approached. And then, something happened that none of us expected. Levi walked past Sarah, past Evan, straight to the open car door. He turned back once, looked at me, and then jumped in like he already knew. Minnie followed. No fear, no hesitation, just home. I walked them out, watched the car pull away, and stood in the parking lot long after the dust had settled. The Arizona sky stretched above me, orange and gold, and I swore I could feel the silence finally exhale. And Theo, he's doing well. Claire sends photos every week, him napping in her garden, riding in the front seat with his head out the window, curled up on her late husband's favorite armchair like he was always meant to be there. He's still quiet, still observant, but he's safe and loved. 3 German Shepherd puppies left in bags like garbage, now sleeping in beds, curled in arms, loved beyond measure. I don't know who hurt them. I don't know why. But I know this. They didn't win. These puppies chose to live, to trust, to love again. And if that isn't the bravest thing in the world, I don't know what is. This little guy's journey from abandonment to rehabilitation shows how important nonprofit rescue groups really are. Caring for a rescued puppy is more than love. It's responsibility. It's pet care. Share their story because somewhere out there, another puppy is waiting, and your share might be what saves them. Join our Paws Justice File family. Be their voice. Be their hope. Nonprofit rescue groups really are. Caring for a rescued puppy is more than love. It's responsibility. It's pet care. Share their story because somewhere out there, another puppy is waiting, and your share might be what saves them. Join our Paws Justice File family. Be their voice. Be their hope.